I want to talk about being radically rooted and grounded. As I read the book yesterday, Rooted and Grounded by Comeford, that I got and I really enjoyed it. It was good. The book is mainly about churches, but I think it's a very easy application to colleges. But for that story, because why not rather travel to Comeford? It is nice that I have a set date for when this event happened, because I want to remember it for a long time. But it was just over 2 years ago, because it was roughly a week before Ox came crashing into the world on 4th of July. I was in St. Andrews in Scotland with a bunch of students who were way too tired and jet-lagged running around Europe. But something happened to me on that trip that I hope I never forget. I had been there before on my senior trip with school, but this year, or that year, St. Andrews hit a little differently. Going down the cobble streets and getting into or outside of St. Andrews Castle, we were hearing from our tour guide Jimmy, who was a portly man with a very thick Scottish accent, who loved the town dearly, talk about all the history and stuff that went on there. But just outside St. Andrews Castle is a giant GW, which is not my initials. It stands for George Wishart, who was, I believe, hanged and burned in that spot. We then took a little jaunt down the road, down to the ruins of the university. No, we went into the University of St. Andrews. They're not ruins. They're still standing. People still there. The ruins come later. But inside the University of St. Andrews, in the chapel of St. Salvatore, where we learned about that was where John Knox actually was called to ministry. I don't remember what preacher it was, but he pointed out at Knox and said, "You're the man," and he was then called to the ministry at that point. And he ran out, I believe, screaming and crying, because he was scared about what that meant. Just outside that hallway, though, you then have a giant PH on the sidewalk of Patrick Hamilton, where he was the first martyr in Scotland. He was killed there. We then made the jaunt down to St. Andrews Cathedral ruins, which those are ruins. And I believe the story behind the ruins is actually the people, after it got bombarded, the people then started taking rocks to build their homes, because they rejected the Catholic Church, and so they had no problem just taking stones and making a house out of it. So it's pretty much down to the floor, but it's pretty extensive. And Jimmy then talked us through Knox being held there, all that went down there, and just gave us a brief history there. And then we walked further down into town again, into St. Mary's Quad. And St. Mary's Quad is a part of St. Mary's College, but you walk through these two, it's the wall of the quad, and there are apartments in there that he's telling us about. And it's slightly raining, and they walk through, you get a brief reprieve from the rain, and then it opens up onto a magnificent oak. This massive oak tree that is just covering, it's just huge. And green lawn going up to it, and a massive oak. And it's raining all day because it's Scotland. So we all actually run under the oak to get out from the rain. And Jimmy starts telling us some more history. And it was under that oak when I had a really strong experience of wanting the same kind of history that those men had who had been burned, killed, hung for their love of the gospel. And it's all throughout the colleges, and it all started at the colleges for them. Everything for them started at the college and in the books. And I wanted that kind of community as well. But coming back home, we're all busy people. It's really hard to actually sit down and talk with people on a regular basis and have conversations about what you're reading, because we're all reading such different ones, so the conversation kind of stalls out. So I was already teaching Comfort then, but I wanted to build that community that those men had. And from that point, I really wanted to work hard to give our community that kind of community. One that people really do care about, that they're in love with the book, the Bible, and they care enough to actually go sacrifice for it. Which is the whole point of the Reformation. So out of St. Andrews, began the began the Reformation in Scotland. Those few men changed the world over with the influence of Knox. And I want that for comfort. So looking at the book Rooted and Grounded, Kuiper is looking at the organism versus the institution. So letting the Spirit lead, but then also building up institutions to hold onto the truth. So if you're rooted in Christ, you grow like a plant, but then Christ is also the cornerstone to go and build out all things around us. So yes, it does matter how you believe, it matters about what you're doing there, but then you're not just supposed to stop with the private relationship with Christ. You should be going more and building more in the community. So his points about the institution is you are supposed to analyze and arrange the truths around you to make sure and pass it along, to protect them and pass it on to the next generation. And it is the answer to the challenges that you face. So you build institutions to answer the challenges that are around you. The college is not a church, but it is an extension of the culture. Cultures are the norms. What do we do? How do we do things? What do we want for our people to act? What do we want them to think, to believe, to do? So culture is all about what do we do and how do we go from there. So some cultural things that we believe in. Jesus is Lord, and him caring about every single comes with. The fact that all are yours, which is the motto of our college. But these are all confessional things. These are things that we believe in and we want you to believe in fully. But then we also want our college to do something more than just influence your day. We want it to go and actually influence what you're doing. ECS is working on how do we define our culture, and Mr. Sarr came up with some pretty good ones recently. He defined it as masculine nerve, tactical laughter, and radical company. And because I teach at ECS, Mr. Higgins does, a lot of our board is tangential to ECS. Why not riff off that number as well? But being a masculine nerve from Friedman's book, being someone who knows what they believe, knows they're part of it, and being able to march forward and continue to do well. To not be shaken by the emotional people around us. Tactical laughter, learning and having a sense of humor, because things go wrong, and our job is to respond correctly to it, not to freak out. So learning to laugh when things are hard in particular ways that make other people nervous. I think it's really good. And then radical company, the fact that we should want to be around each other, not because we feel like we have to, but because we actually are enjoyable people. So people who cook good food, have good conversation, drink good wine, and have fun together is actually like that type of culture that we should be pursuing in all our lives. But a mature Christian should be able to do all these things. And college is part of that. The college education helps with that. College will make you better, make your school better, and make your community better. You will grow through it all, we'll grow with you, and through all that, we will influence various people around us, hopefully to the whole world. But your education does come with some expectations. We do expect you to do more with it. To not merely fill your heads, but actually go forth and start families, or continue them. Change the people around you and have an effect that can actually make Marysville a destination. That is the point of your education. We want you to go and do more things with it. We want you to know how to be firmly rooted in Christ. And that is the foundation to then go and build forth other things. So, go and become a bridge. Grow to weather the storm. Because postmodernism is coming or leaving, as it may be growing rapidly. But we need to be able to have answers to these problems and be able to do things about them, because we do have the answers in Christ through history, and with history, and just looking at all things that all our forefathers have given us. So we actually have answers to the problems, even if people don't want to recognize them. So here is to the new year, and here is to change the world.